right, hello everybody. Mike Gandolfo here, and welcome to the More with Mike show. As always, if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, if you're watching this live, you can ask a question by dropping a question in the comment section, and we will get to it. I'm joined by a guy who's already been on the show once, Greg Chaplin. If you follow any of my content, you've probably heard of Greg. If you're watching this, you probably know Greg. Greg's actually in town because we got the NAR, National Association of Realtors Broker Summit.
We do.
Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
In the flooded Louisville, Kentucky.
But it gave me an opportunity to come to Louisville and see one of my best friends. So.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Did you actually, flying in this morning, you literally just landed. Did you pay attention when you were flying in over the river? Did you see like the flooding and stuff?
I did not see the river area, but I could see as we were approaching the runway here and up in Detroit, there was puddles everywhere. Yeah. So I know you guys have gotten
nailed here without question. So it's an interesting time for the National Association of Realtors to be here. Let me give a little context. You and I actually went to this broker summit for the first time 2 years ago. Yeah. It was in Kansas City, very strategically. Yes. Because it was right before the lawsuit that was going on. Was, if people don't know, the Stitcher lawsuit was based out of Kansas City. And, you know, I got a lot of value out of the NAR Broker Summit.
I did as well. It was the first NAR event that I had ever attended, and I was impressed. I mean, I thought the leadership was extremly approachable. Now, obviously, there's been a change of leadership.
I wanted to get into that here a little bit.
We'll do that. But I thought they were extremely approachable, gracious. Weren't standoffish at all. They wouldn't just speak from the stage and then disappear. They were interacting with the agent and the broker community.
The content was good.
The content was good. Yeah, the content was good. And I'm looking forward to this one, as obviously we're in a different place with NAR right now. We'll get into that, but I'm interested to hear their message.
So let's just, you personally, we're at the National Association of Realtors Broker Summit. You're not a broker. You are a team leader.
Well, I'm a broker too. Yeah. I'm not a managing broker.
You're not a managing broker. You have a broker's license? Okay.
I do.
Okay. But you're not the broker of your big independent.
Correct.
In Virginia Beach, Virginia, the whole Hampton Roads area. How many agents you all have total? You have
230,
okay.
2 offices. Yeah.
And an independent brokerage. Greg runs a super successful team. But and that's where you were when we went to it 2 years ago. Now you're running another team. You're doing more training.
Right.
You've gotten involved with the local association.
Right.
Was there anything that happened at that last broker summit that maybe kind of stimulated for you to get more involved and maybe kind of grow your impact? Because I think sometimes as agents we get so just self-interested in what's going on in our personal business, in our personal world. Like you've really, you're really starting making an impact.
Well, we as agents and we as associate brokers, we can get very involved in our own day-to-day. And, I always say real estate is a very demanding mistress. And, so it requires your full attention most of the time. So, you're right. I mean, it wasn't something that I had been taught to do. I think maybe the seed was planted there.
Yeah.
I came back and I've run a team, as you mentioned, a large team, and we had I had been taking more of a leadership role with the brokerage. I am on the leadership team with the brokerage. There's 4 of us that kind of, we focus on the training and the development of the brokerage. I'm not an owner of that, but I was on that management team. And so, I'd say, well, I probably need to get more involved with the local brokerage or with the local association, right?
The Hampton Roads Association.
Yeah. And so I applied to be a board member, and I was elected my first year, and I spent a year there doing that. And I have to say, I did get a new appreciation for what NAR does, for what Virginia Association of Realtor does, and what the Hampton Roads Realtor Association does. A new appreciation of the work they do, the people that are involved. There really are people that care about our industry out there. It's not just words. And I was like, wow, this is impactful. I was impressed. This year I've been voted to the treasurer, so I'm not only on the
Does that
board.
Mean you're going to be the head honcho here pretty soon? Is that what's going to happen?
Well, it's a growth pattern, right? But so now I'm on the executive committee with our local association. So, in the room when it happens, I'm hearing some things that I may not have heard of as a board member. which is interesting. You know,
Yeah.
it's very interesting just to see the growth of this.
I think for me, I'm not a big fan of the bureaucracy,
Right.
and whatever else. And it just, I think I take a stance that a lot of other agents do, is that just don't like, is that the best and highest use of investment of my time? And I think I look at what you're doing, and it's so impressive just because like Greg wins awards for having the best production out of a mega team in his market. So he's running this super successful mega team. You then take on the responsibilities of running the other team.
Right.
You take on the responsibilities of protecting the brokerage or the association with what you're doing at the association level. How do you do it all? Like how do you man? And you know what? You still make time for your wife and stuff too.
Yeah.
So how do you do it all?
Well, it's prioritization, right?
Yeah.
It's
what was the decision then to prioritize that stuff? Like
it took a while to get to that point. And maybe there was some nudging from our principal, that basically said, hey, this would be a good idea for you to get more involved in this, because now you're our representative, our liaison for the brokerage. Instead of just having others do it, we need to have a voice there. Because as you mentioned, we're a pretty large independent brokerage. I don't know, we're the largest one in our market, but we're one of the largest in our market for sure. And I think it was important for our owner. It was important for our leadership team to have a voice with the association. So I stepped up.
Yeah. And I think, I don't want to disrespect anyone who's on these associations. I find that typically like the heavy hitters are not involved at the association level.
Heavy hitters as far as production
wise. I find that's kind of maybe middle of the road kind of agents. They're definitely not nobodies or no name people. It's people you've heard of.
Yeah.
But it tends not to be the people that are like, and I say that because I imagine that seeing someone who produces at the level that you produce, a lot of people got to pay attention. It probably legitimizes it a little bit, right?
Yeah, I think what I've noticed, at least with our association, is you're right about the middle producers from a committee standpoint.
Yeah.
But when you get to the board standpoint, what I see there is a lot of managing brokers.
Yeah.
And a lot. So, all right, so they might not be the big hitters as far as production. Their brokerages are, but they're certainly a leader in our industry. They're certainly, we've got, I'm trying to think right off the top hand, probably 12 people on the board. And I bet you 10 of them are at least managing brokers or broker owners.
Are those people still in production?
Few.
Man, see, that's
very few.
So you actually add that to them too.
Yeah,
what's going on,
and none of them at the production level that I'm at.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Yeah.
All right, so that's enough about you. we go into the National Association of Realtors Broker Summit. We meet our I don't even know how many presidents ago it was, but we met this guy. He gives us a belt buckle. The gentleman from Utah, we'll just call him that. He gets in trouble, has to step down. The next president comes in, she gets blackmailed or whatever, and she has to step. I don't even know what.
I didn't even follow that one. That one was so quick.
And we then have the executive director step down after the court case comes out. We got all these agents upset about the court case. A lot of agents are saying, "Hey, why am I a member of NAR? Does it even matter?" A lot of other agents saying, "Why is it such an easy thing to be a member of NAR?" They don't understand that. Part of that whole thing is having the largest trade organization in the country and the power that brings. And then people are like, well, that power obviously didn't matter because we didn't lose the case, by the way. We settled the case. There's a big difference.
There's a huge difference.
Without admitting any kind of fault.
Right.
But you think it's safe to say that most agents, maybe their trust and belief in the National Association of Realtors is shaken a little bit?
Yeah, I think everybody has questioned that. Let me say this: you mentioned I don't like the bureaucracy, right? And I would agree with that. Keep in mind, NAR, Virginia Association of Realtors, Hampton Roads, Louisville Association of Realtors. It's a political organization.
Correct.
Now, let me make one thing clear: it's not political like left or right, red or blue, donkeys and elephants. Okay, that's not what I mean. It's a political advocacy group for property owners' rights and ownership rights. So it doesn't matter what side of the aisle someone might sit on. If they're in favor of the things that are good for the homeowner, if they're in favor of things that are good for development of real estate, if they're in favor of the things that are the rights of the homeowner, then NAR backs them.
Yeah.
So so it's not about left or right. And it's important to know that, because they refer to themselves as the purple party, which is probably an accurate statement. Because I've seen, and a lot of times we as agents can go, wow, NAR is really screwing up because they're backing this candidate that I don't believe with philosophically. And I would agree, but that's the danger, because NAR's not making a decision on this person's social politics or
strictly on homeownership.
Strictly on homeowners. That's it. So it's important to make sure we keep that in that box.
And I think that we've always been taught that, and this is a true stat, that the net worth of a homeowner on average is 44 times greater than the net worth of the average renter. So most people would say, well, most homeowners then have got to be leaning one side of the aisle versus the other. But they do so much really with diversity and inclusion, with fair housing, with making sure that affordability, and trying to and help people realize the American dream.
Well, here's one that Louisville might be interested in right now: flood insurance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
You guys just went through some
maybe a little
flooding, if I'm not mistaken.
You still are, actually.
Okay.
River has not crested yet.
We're big at that out at the ocean also. So we're in a very low-lying area of Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake. These areas are prone to flooding, and I can tell you this: that the National Flood Policy or program was scheduled to end in March of 2024. Had NAR not banged on the doors for the politicians to re-up that, when those storms came through Florida and when those storms came through Western North Carolina and Western Virginia, none of those people would have had flood insurance. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Louisville right now is I'm sure someone's filing a flood claim. That would not have existed if it wasn't for NAR.
And I think even the one that we keep on hearing here is that there's a lot of properties on the river that have like the old school FEMA flood insurance. That, like, if you let it lapse one time, you're kicked out of it. But all these people that are grandfathered in, but I think NAR was a big part of making sure that those could be not only grandfathered in, but transferred. And
Yeah, they're transferable policies in most cases where new entries aren't allowed or favored. I could go down the list, and this is my frustration with NAR, VAR, and Hurrah and Louisville Association is I think as associations, GLAR, okay,
Greater Louisville Association Realtors.
Got it, GLAR. We're Hurrah,
and then Lexington is the Bluegrass Association Realtors.
Hurrah! Well, Hurrah! That's pretty cool. My frustration is I think all the organizations do a really poor job of letting us know, us, the agent community, broker community, all the good things they're doing. And, that's my frustration. We need to be better with our messaging. And that's actually on our strategic plan for our local association this coming year, is to improve upon that messaging. Now, why we've had to wait this long to improve on the messaging, I don't know, because had the messaging been cleared, maybe some of this other stuff that's happened in the last 18 months would have been different. I don't know that it would have prevented anything, but it would have maybe been different.
That's the reason I have the show. I mean, I want people to realize like what it is they actually do, how they should do it better, and raise the professionalism of this whole industry. Well,
just to give you an idea of some of the other things, and this is in no particular order or nowhere close to, and I'm going to make up a couple numbers because I don't recall what the numbers are, but I did on our association's website right now. I could pull it up. Literally, the Virginia Association of Realtors was influential. I want to say the number was something like 2,300 different bills and cases just in the state of Virginia in the last year. That's crazy. I can't even, I don't even know what those things were all about. But if there was any element in there about fair housing or home ownership or regulation for development, property taxes, all this stuff that would have been addressed at some level. But some of the biggies that stand out to me is, we all remember 2020 and what went on there. Had it not been for the NAR,
we would not have been essential.
We would not have been essential, period. With the latest recalibration of and re-communication of how buyers, agents, commissions are paid or compensation is paid, the VA is a big thing in my area. The VA benefit.
You have every single military
All of them.
base.
Yeah. We have 13 military bases within 30 miles of my office.
Wow. Okay.
So all 6 branches, 5 branches plus, Space Force. So my point is, we do a lot of VA product. There was a stipulation in the VA regulations that a VA buyer could not participate in any compensation to their agent. That would have been a problem with this latest change, and it would have put the veteran at a huge disadvantage in the marketplace. A huge disadvantage. You got to keep in mind that regulation was put into place probably after World War I, when most veterans probably couldn't read or write.
Yeah.
They came off the farm somewhere, right? They were drafted into the Army, or maybe after World War II. But these folks were, it's not the veteran that we see in active duty military today, right?
Yeah.
Who's at least got a high school degree and moving on. So these people can read and write. They've got the information, and when those rules were put into place to protect the veteran, they were needed. But they're so antiquated in the thinking that, had it not been for NAR, that rule was actually mothballed. It was literally said, until further notice, that doesn't apply anymore. And had that not taken place, the veteran would have been at such a disadvantage.
Yeah.
It would have been crazy. So that's just some examples.
What's the like, maybe for the Hampton Roads Association of Realtors, what's the number? Give me a couple of the benefits that you all provide that your MLS constituents that maybe be really huge and important.
Okay. Well, one of the things that Virginia Association provides is that product called Forewarn. I think you guys have it here too.
Big advantage in that both Lexington and Louisville.
Well, if you think $240 a year is what you and I would have to pay individually for that service, and it's in our dues. So
right.
Whatever portion of our annual dues goes to Virginia Association of Realtors, it's not much more than $240, and we get that product.
Right.
So, I mean, just right there, it's almost like paying for itself.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's other things as well. I mean, there's a lot of recognition. There's, we've got the Circle of Excellence product that is so important to some people, less important to other people. But it's something that the association does hang their hat on and say, look, we're gonna make it a big deal. If you're a producing agent, we're gonna make sure everyone knows about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think that we've talked about it before. You mentioned it earlier. Actually, there's a perception problem from the associations, both the state, the national, the local, of really helping the agents understand what it is to do. You come from an area, I might be wrong with this, I'm not sure. You do not have to be a realtor to be a member of your MLS.
That's correct.
Right?
That's correct.
Now, for a lot of people, I think a lot of people thought that was going to be an issue. Tell me how that's worked. It's been in your market like that for a while.
Yeah, as long as I've been in real estate, 20 years now.
Yeah.
So our MLS is not a National Association of Realtor MLS. It's an independent.
By the way, most people don't understand that the association and the MLS for a lot of different people are two separate
companies.
Louisville's the same way. Lexington just became that way. That the MLS and the National and the local association of realtors typically are two separate entities.
Yeah. So we don't. I mean, we've got probably right around 50% of the licensees in our market are realtors.
Yeah.
So the other 50% are not. They don't subscribe.
A lot of property managers and stuff like that.
Yeah, and a lot of independent agents.
Yeah,
we have a lot of smaller brokerages that just are like, hey, come here. You don't have to pay the NAR fees.
Yeah. Okay.
The only issue being is you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants. If it wasn't for NAR, the essential thing that you talked about in 2020, and you're kind of riding on the coattails of other people. So. But it's a choice that everybody has to make. They don't necessarily subscribe to the code of ethics. That doesn't mean they're unethical people.
Sure.
Right. It just means that they're not hanging their hat on that to say, okay, that's something I believe in, that I want to communicate to my client, that this is something I believe in. So, but those two things being independent, I will say that our MLS did opt into the settlement that NAR made. So, while our association is not part of NAR, they opted in to say, "Hey, we're with you guys."
Yeah.
So whatever the things that were described that were believed to be in the best interest of the client, we're all in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been an interesting thing too, as we see certain states try to come out with laws that might contradict and whatever else.
Yeah, there's been a few of them lately. I think
Yeah.
Alabama's the latest one.
And I think at the end of the day, too, people don't understand that what happened as a result of the settlement from the lawsuit is not law. Like
right.
It's
policy.
It is policy to be part of the National Association of Realtors. And Alabama can have whatever law they want.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But there are two, but if you want to be a part of the association, you got to follow the association rules.
And the DOJ, which was the strong arm against NAR to change their policy, can't control Alabama state law.
Correct.
Okay. So they can get mad at them and wag their finger at them, but they can't go, you need to change your law.
Nor have we're not done here from the DOJ, right? So at the end of the day, like from the best way I think I can ever explain it is that the lawsuit settlement was to protect the seller. The DOJ is working on something related that's to protect the buyer. So it's we're not done.
That pendulum might swing a few more times.
It definitely could. And that this is where it's like if you're a consumer, you need to be with a pro who understands what the landscape is and what's going on.
Yeah.
All right. One of the other really great benefits, I think, of being a part of the association, the National Association of Realtors, and you're going to hear from this guy tomorrow, is the economist Lawrence Yun.
Yeah.
So
big fan.
Big fan of his. I would say that real estate predictions in the last 2 years have been very difficult. Everybody seems like they've been wrong.
Yeah. Let's say reality hasn't followed the trends. It has not followed the indicators.
Yeah. So, but so when you see someone like Lawrence Yun talk and you know how educated he is, how respected he is, what are you hoping to get out of his session tomorrow?
Well, I think
tomorrow or actually
I think it's Wednesday morning. Yeah. Lawrence, just like everybody, I mean, let's face it, as I mentioned, the industry hasn't followed the patterns of the indicators since 2019.
Correct.
So we've been, since 5.5 years ago was the last time the indicators actually were holding true. All the prognosticators were out there in 2020, 2021, 2022 saying this is what's going to happen, including Lawrence.
Yeah.
Okay. This is where I see interest rates going. Not even close. So I'm not saying that to say the guy doesn't know what he's talking about. What he knows is he knows how to read the indicators. So what I'm hoping to get from him is not a watered down version, but what I'm hoping to get from him is just a realization, a cognizant realization that, okay, these indicators that I studied, that I can read as well as anybody, that might not be where the market's going. Yeah. And so I honestly think Lawrence is going to be taking a lot of input from us brokers. And I will say he's extremely approachable. I mean, he is very approachable guy, willing to listen, willing to have a chat about things.
We were eating barbecue and
we were and sucking a few brews.
Yeah.
And so but what I'm hoping to get from Lawrence is an indicator of what's going to happen. Although I know that's going to be difficult for him because the tea leaves aren't telling the story right now. And there's other things that could happen. So the things that are not in our control, we saw this in first quarter 2025, where just the change in administration, I don't care if you're left, right, blue, red, doesn't matter. Whether you're in favor of the changes, not in favor of the changes, irrelevant. Change makes people stop and pause.
Tariffs are doing the same thing right now.
Any change makes people stop and pause. Change in interest rates. When interest rates were volatile, people stopped buying homes because they were trying to time the market. Once interest rates stabled out or became more stable, we saw buying come back to the market regardless of what they stabilized at. Didn't matter what the number was. It just mattered that they were relatively stable, wiggling a little bit, but not the huge inflections that we saw in 23 and into early 24. That's what scared people. Change scares people and they stop. So change in administration stopped some people. Whether they were left or right, doesn't matter.
Changes in the stock market.
Changes in the stock market. Yeah.
Yeah. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
And people pause. They got to regroup because sometimes, I think we as an industry forget that we're dealing with the largest investment. Yeah. The largest financial instrument that anyone ever puts their money into. Yeah. And they're also not only doing that, they're borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars from another entity to do that, right? Yeah. Like it's not a small little decision.
No, it's not. And with the polarization in the news and the media and the political thing and all that. Again, that polarity of the highs and the lows really scares me. I saw it, even last fall before the election. People are like, well, I'm waiting to see what happens in the election before I buy a house. And I'm like, so which party needs to win in order for you to want to live indoors?
Yeah. So what happens?
Where
how
does that
change?
How does that
this guy
change
wins versus this guy wins?
This guy
Which
wins.
old white guy?
Right.
Actually,
This guy
there was
wins.
there
I'll
was
buy a
feud on
tent.
last one,
This guy wins. I'll buy a house.
Yeah.
Now, I said, which one needs to win? And they were like, I guess I see your point.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it doesn't change the fact that house prices are continuing to increase because of supply and demand. Interest rates are what interest rates are. You can change that in the future. What you can't change is the sticker price that you paid for your house.
Right.
So the best time to buy a house is 20 years ago.
It's kind of funny you say that. I was showing a house yesterday, which I don't do very often anymore, but the redhead was out of town, so I had to show houses. And this house that was the exact floor plan, the exact neighborhood that her brother bought a house in. It was before I got into real estate, so it had to be 22 years ago. And then he bought it for like $125, and we were in that house, and it was $410,000.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, does it really matter what interest rate he got when he bought it at
market,
125?
Right?
Does it really matter?
No,
it really doesn't.
That's the other thing I like too, is like, I can't remember what the years were or what the rates were, but I guess we saw 69 or 1970 rates went up.
Yeah.
And people were like, well, I'm going to wait till the rate comes down. Well, the rate didn't go down until 1994. They missed out on like $400,000 worth of equity.
Yeah. I bought my first condo, my first house in 1990.
I was in the 7th grade.
I bought it in 1990, just before I got married. And I got a 9 5/8% interest rate. And I thought I stole it.
Because you got under 10.
I got under 10 because it hadn't been under 10 in like a long time. So I thought, and I tell people today, the house that I grew up in, my dad bought in 1960. He got a 5% interest rate, and he bragged about it for 40 years.
Yeah.
All right.
And how much did you pay for it?
Oh, probably $6,000. That's right, something like that. But the point is he was talking about the interest rate. Oh, I got a 5% interest rate. He bragged about it for 40 years, and rates, went up to, they're like 6.5 right now, but historically speaking, not a bad rate.
Right. I got 3 questions that I want to end up on.
Sure.
Last one is, let's pretend that you're talking to the agent right now who questions whether or not they should be a member of the National Association of Realtors, or what are you telling that person?
Yeah. I'm telling them about the political advocacy. That, to me, that is the game changer. Is that this? I do tell them it's a political organization. I tell them it's not a left or right thing, as we mentioned, but that these people are going to work every day to protect your industry. These folks are going to work every day. And do they do a good job of communicating it? No, they don't. The answer is, well, if you go on our website, you'll see it. Well, I'm never on your website.
Right.
But so I think,
I log into the National Association of Realtors website like 3 times a year.
Probably about right. Yeah, that's probably average.
Looking for a specific report or something.
Right. So what I'm talking about, though, is that little by little, if Virginia Association of Realtors acted on 2,300 bills,
what's the national doing? Oh, man, yeah,
times 50, right? So that means there's at least that many bills talking about home ownership, and all it takes is a little chipping away of people's freedoms over time. Chip away, and next thing you know, no offense, you're California. Right. You're in a place where you and I have a friend who owns raw land in California and refuses to develop it because he's going to lose money.
Jeez.
There's a housing shortage in California, but it's impractical as a business person to develop that land because of all the regulations, state regulations, blah, blah, blah regulations, local regulations, taxes. It becomes prohibitive to develop the land. And I know I'm picking on California, but there's other states that are inching that way too.
Yeah.
And NAR is going, no, let's continue to fight the fight and protect people's right to own real estate.
And by the way, I think that's the biggest issue right now in real estate, is how we ease the process to development, how we increase.
It's huge.
We are so far behind in the number of homes that are being built and the number of units that are being built. we've got, and we joke here in our market that a builder in Jefferson County goes to get his builder permit and he automatically gets his sewer district fine. Like, here's your permit
and here's your fine.
Like right out the
and we're not far away from that.
Yeah,
so it's important. This is important stuff, and NAR's out there on the front lines fighting that fight, and so I want to support that.
Okay, now you're the realtor who's a member of NAR and whatever else, and you're getting the inkling of like, you know what, maybe I should get involved with my association. What are you telling that person?
Yeah, I think just what I shared with you earlier. I was pleasantly surprised. I was that there are a lot of other good people out there that are willing to give time, give of themselves, give of their talents to further this organization along, whether it's at the local level of your local market, whether it's at the state level or the national level. I for 19 years, really, my local association was an afterthought. I treated it like a commodity, it'll always be there kind of thing. And then I got involved and I was like, okay, I really see that there are some really good people, some really smart people, and some people that really do care, not just about their production, their team, their brokerage, but the industry at large.
Love it. And that's Greg, who sells a house a day, chaplain, saying that. So now to the National Association of Realtors.
Yeah.
What are you telling them to get it so they can get the message out to us a little bit better?
Yeah, I think I'll let you know after this week, because that's why I came to this. I want to find out what the messaging is. But so far,
completely new leadership.
So far, what I can tell is this new leadership is very transparent. Time will tell, but have been extremely transparent, open, far more communicative than any leadership that I've experienced in the past.
But are you only getting that on the association level?
No, I'm getting that on the broker level.
Yeah,
because it's not coming through my association to me. It's coming from NAR. It's coming from VAR, and from my local association. Yes, okay, maybe I'm just more aware of it because I'm serving at the local level, but I've noticed a lot more communications coming specifically.
I don't feel like I could make that assessment
really
based off what I
maybe you opted out.
No, I don't think I opted out, but at the same time, I don't know if I'm feeling the same level of communication.
I've just seen an improvement. I'm not saying it's where it needs to be.
Sure.
I don't think it's there yet. I think NARS and the local associations got to be far more braggadocious about the good work that they're doing, and I don't think they've done a real push towards that type of communication.
It's kind of funny because us as agents, we cover up so many potholes along the journey of home ownership, and sometimes we don't tell our clients.
That's true.
If we don't tell the client, hey, we avoided this hiccup because I did this, and this, then they don't know.
Yeah, that's right. No, they don't know. And in that escrow period, you're working harder than you did before you put them under contract most times.
Last thing, and our friend Jody's putting this in here, so I'm going to put her up there. Talk about RPAC is a great way to learn and contribute. Every time we pay our dues, we're getting ready to do that here in Kentucky. Actually. Yeah, we are.
And Jody, thanks for saying that, because you're exactly right. RPAC is the organization that raises funds for that political advocacy, and I'm a platinum member myself, so of RPAC. So I not only serve it, but I also believe in it with my dollars.
And then our friend Ed is saying, "I want a secret black button like you cool kids." I don't even know what the black button is.
It's the
he's talking about the microphones. Okay, you too, Ed, can come to Louisville and get a black.
How much do these things run? They're pretty cool.
They're pretty cheap, actually. They're pretty affordable. So
I got to get me some.
Ultimately, though, it's when you get the option to opt in, it comes on our bill, and you have to opt out of the RPAC contribution.
Yeah, it does on ours too.
Why should people opt into that RPAC contribution?
Again, it goes back to the political advocacy. It's kind of a put your money where your mouth is, right? If you believe in the benefit. You want the benefit. If you want NAR to go out there and fight the fight against infractions against our freedoms, they need funding.
Yeah.
And it's not thousands of dollars they're asking for. It's a couple of dollars. And so I think it's important for a realtor to make that contribution. I've always made that contribution, but I never really went over and above until the last couple of years, in which, as I mentioned, I'm a platinum member.
I haven't always made it. I make it frequently, and I need to be more into it. So this has been good. The National Association of Realtors does serve you as an agent. They do definitely look out for your best interest. And again, they didn't lose a court case; they settled the court case.
Yeah.
And there is a big difference, and they continue to fight for you and for you to be able to operate your business. So, all right, Greg, enjoy the conference.
I will. I hope to hopefully bring some good stuff back and to my team.
And maybe we can do a follow-up actually of what the messaging was.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of people who are curious, like, okay, we got a new president, we got a new executive director. Like, where's this ship going?
Yeah.
Because
what's the vision?
We got to. It's almost like the Louisville basketball here took a little bit of a beating for a while, and Pat Kelsey came in, laid out a vision, put some things in place, and that's completely. Not completely, because they still want to go out there and win some tournament games, but the revival, as they like to say, is on. So NAR is in Louisville, and hopefully they're starting their own little revival at the association.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.